Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Le'Ra Online Smicha. In Shulchan Aruch and Siman Shin Samach Daled, the Prisha brings that when somebody's buried, there's an Indian to make a matzeva, a tombstone, the place where he's buried. And he writes that it's a zikaron, to remember who the nifter is, so the children should be able to daven there, and it's l'te'elis for the nifter, and for te'elis also for the living. We know that Yaakov Avinu made a matzeva on the kever of Rachel, Matan Kavur of Rachel, so the people, later generations, knew where to daven. So it's a Matan Kaddish to place, they identified a Matan Kaddish to be able to daven there. Now that's actually, it seems to be a very obvious thing, a very special thing. But Shas Ksuvas Ksav Sefer Chelik Yeridea Siman Kuf Pei Dalid, he says that even though the Chiddush is, because even though in Sefer Chassidim it says, based on the Yerushalmi and Shkolim Perik Beis Halacha Hey, that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, "Ein oisim nefashis l'tzadikim." You don't make nefashis for the tzadikim that passed on. What is nefashis? Is a tombstone. Why not? Because divrayim heim zerchonim. With what we remember them is what they taught us, their teachings, their Torah. There's no point to single it out by a matzeva. It's their Torah that is how we remember them. But nevertheless, even though it seems to be from that Gemara that you shouldn't, but Lepoyo, it didn't mean not to make a matzeva. It means don't make a dome, don't make a whole fancy building. But a matzeva, just a tombstone, you're allowed to. And actually, in the Gemara, it was referred to a lot of times as a tombstone, as a tzion, as a marker, because for kohanim, it's also important to know where there is a mess buried, because a kohen is not allowed to walk in just any place where there could be a mess buried. Now, when should the matzeva be put up? What should be written on the matzeva and how it should be written? So we'll just highlight some of the halachas connected to this. So, for example, based on the Zohar, it is mentioned that, based on what it says in the Zohar, it comes out that you should not make the matzeva within the shiva. You should make the matzeva, place the matzeva once the shiva is over. And the Shiloh Teshuvas Minchas Elazar, Chelik Gimel Simen Lamed Zayin, says it's a very big mistake. What people do, they wait 12 months to put the matzeva. No, you should do it mamish at the end of the shiva. And the reason for that is because it says it takes 7 days for the neshama of the deceased to leave the home that he was living in. Every day, some part of it leaves, and at the end of shiva, it settles in where the place of the matan kavura, and it's symbolic by making a matzeva at that time. Because the matzeva is like the resting place, the seat, the mokaim lishreis all of the ruchos and makifim, the spirit that's finding a resting place. Now, in this alone, there's a question. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef Paskin, you could do it right away, halfway into the last day of Shiva. Others wait actually the day after Shiva. But to symbolize that, don't wait 12 months. The following year, do it right after the shiva. Again, this is Rabbi Ovadia Yosef and Yashalos Shuvas Yabia Eimer, Chelik Dalet, Chelik Yeridea, Siman Lamed Gimel. What should be written? How should it be written? First of all, it says you have to be very careful what you write there. Don't exaggerate, because whatever is written there, they deal with the Neshama L'mayla and say, "Oh, look what they write about you down here." So it has to be honest and all truth. The Chassam Sofer in Chelik Vav Siman Dalid writes not to have any pictures on it, not to put any pictures, and it became a minig that people used to put pictures. He says don't put any pictures, and so much so, Rabbi Shmuel Vazner talks about this. There's a Shalos Teshuvas Maram Shik Yeridei Siman Kuf Ayin, that there was a story over there that somebody had a design of a heart in the picture of the deceased. And he said you have to be mashpia on the family to take it off. It's not. You're not allowed to have a picture on the matzeva. The matzeva should be written only in Lashon Kodesh, and especially the dates should be specifically in Lashon Kodesh. Why the date? The date even more. So it's brought in Shilas Teshuvas Yabia Omer Chelik Zayin Simon Lamed Beis, because if you use the Goyish date, it's connecting to the way the Goyim calculate the seasons and the dates, and that's connected to Yoshka. You definitely don't want to have any mention of that on a Matseva. Now, when you write the name of the person, the Ashkenazim write it, the person and the Shem Aviv, and this who his father was. The Sephardim write who the mother was. If there is no minig in the place where you are, you could write both the father and the mother. It's customary, it's brought in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch to make sure you shouldn't read the letters if they're sticking out. And when you're writing qualities about the person, as mentioned before, you have to make sure the qualities are true. Rabbi Vadia Yosef paskin that if the person suffered a lot in his life, especially at the end of his life, you should actually write that meducha b'yisurim, because that could be a reward for him in the world above. Once a matzeva is put up, you have to know that just like you're not allowed to have a noah from different things of the deceased, you're not allowed to step on a matzeva or sit on a matzeva. The Rashba, however, is matir. The Ramah and Siman Shin Samach Dalid, Sif Aleph, says you have to treat the matzeva with a lot of respect.